Hello and welcome to a new episode of airportceo here on BongoPlanes, where we will be continuing with our new project where we try to replicate Copenhagen Airport at least as good as we can with the game mechanics at hand. Obviously the game is square based and the real world is not, so there are a few challenges, but today, as I say, Terminal 2, we'll see how far we get. And as always, before we get too far into the video, if you should end up enjoying this episode, then don't forget to leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, you're always welcome to hit subscribe. Alright, so while I'm working a little bit here on the taxiway system along Terminal 3, that and of course will connect over to Terminal 2, how does Terminal 2 of Copenhagen Airport actually look like? Let's take a bird's eye view of the terminal to get a rough idea. Alright, so Terminal 2 is mainly handling European and Danish internal traffic. So at the gates or the stands we will be building, the maximum size will be medium stands, but we will also include some smaller size. We have like this one concourse going out here, where this is fairly simple. It's just a straight concourse and then a circular tip at the end. So that shouldn't be too complicated to replicate. But then we of course have another concourse which is more T-shaped, I would say. And that is a little bit more challenging for us because, as you can see here, this is slightly angled. And that's a problem with the game because obviously, as I say, it's a square-based game, unlike the real world. So we will have to see how we can work our way around that. I would like to try to see if we can make something somewhat angled, even though it will of course still be square based, but still so that it's not just a straight concourse going out from our main terminal building. Next to these two concourses, these main parts of Terminal 2, you then actually have a few more stands. We will also be building that section, and from there you would then be able to go over to what used to be Terminal 1, which today unfortunately is closed. But we might want to build this anyway, but I think that's a decision we will make a little bit later in this series, and you will have your say on that as well. So going out from like a central building where you have all the check-in areas and of course a lot of shopping areas, we then have this very simple concourse here, which I think we will be starting off with. Alright, so given that we are trying to replicate the airport here, we want to also try to look at details like, for example, how many stands are there actually at a concourse in real life and how many are we adding here. So I will try to base it as it is in real life. So for example, on this concourse and along the side, on the right side, we have about 5 stands. Then we have the circular ending, and then on the other side we have again, I think, about 5 stands. But there will also be some compromises. Obviously, again, we can't build a square, so or we can build a square. We can't build a circular, that's what I want to say. So we build a square instead. And then we will have to compromise a little bit on how we place the stands there. Also, I would like to place some small stands here on the left side, even though in real life that would probably more be the equivalent of medium stands in the game. But I would like to have a good mixture of medium and small stands and also some larger stands, because I also would like to have some PAX traffic with the small stands. Normally, or most airports that I built, I use the small stands only for general aviation. Here I would like to include some PAX traffic as well, because you would also get smaller aircraft types at Copenhagen Airport. Obviously not exactly the smaller aircraft types that we have here in the game, but that's just what the game offers, so we will go with that, and I think it will have a nice mixture overall for us. Of course, overall we are still very much just in the process of just getting the rough schematics, the rough layout of the airport here onto the ground, so we have an idea on how things are related to each other. So everything we're putting down here can still be changed, and there are probably some parts that will be changed, because later I just find out, no, I'm not very happy with that. So yeah, this is still the very basic, very beginning of this whole process of trying to replicate the airport. But yeah, it's needed for me at least to have this placed down, so I have an idea on how it is placed in correlation to each other. But as I say, nothing is put or set in stone yet, because this is just the beginning. Obviously, then later we will go into the interior of the building, and then that's the process really where we will say, okay, once we have started that, things shouldn't change too wildly anymore. So while I've been talking about that, you can see I've already tried to start building this terminal, or this concourse that is going off slightly angled from the main terminal building of Terminal 2. So the biggest challenge with that part of the terminal is obviously just the fact that it is slightly angled. So it's not really space efficient when we have to build it grid-based, but yeah. I really want to try to do this, and also then have this T shape that we also need to work on here. And then of course the last part of Terminal 2, where we have this little extension where we then again have, I think, about 5 stands in real life. And from there on you would then have the connection building over towards Terminal 1, which, as I mentioned, in real life does not exist anymore. But we might want to do something there anyway, but again, this is for later. So while we are working on that part of Terminal 2, a few days ago, I believe, the game was updated again and moved from Beta 5 to Beta 6. And with that, the game developers also released their usual blog, where they update and write everything down which has changed, what is new, and what has been improved. Now, I only skimmed the very brief conclusion of that, and I think the biggest change is, or the biggest changes are, that they have worked further on some stability issues, and that they have introduced a limitation as to how many gates can be used or can be connected to a baggage bay. I haven't checked out yet how many gates the limit now is. I believe before it was actually unlimited, but I think it's a good thing, because this is really improving the game. I think this is one of the biggest critiques I have had so far, is always the fact that there don't seem, or haven't really seemed to be, any indicators as to how much, for example, how many vehicles do you need for a stand, how many, for example, in this case, how many gates can you connect to a baggage bay without overloading these parts of the infrastructure. And if they're starting to introduce that now, I think that's a very, very good step for the game, because it will really help improve when people are building the airports. It will also help improve, really identify when you are, for example, overloading parts of the airport without even having known that beforehand. But these are obviously all things that we will experience and see more of later in the process, when we are starting to actually have some aircraft coming into the airport, when infrastructure has been built, so we can already start operating parts of the airport. This is then really when we will start experiencing all these things. Right now, building these basic foundations and stuff like that, there isn't really anything changing here with these updates, so that doesn't really impact us at the moment, but it will be really awesome for the future going into this season, and of course just in general playing and experiencing this game. And I do of course realize that it gets more exciting with these videos once we start having aircraft in, and if we continue just like we're doing right now, this could take a very long time. So I will aim to start to work on the interior of Terminal 2, I think, so that we can at least open part of Terminal 2 as fast as possible, so we can start getting some stuff coming in, some aircraft coming in, and some passengers, and can start also seeing and experience how the airport will work. And then of course we will continue working on all the other areas throughout the season. But just so you know, I am committed to getting aircraft in as fast as possible. But right now this is still very much the beginning of the season, obviously, and therefore I will have to ask for a little bit of patience. If you would like to see some aircraft actually going around on the airport, that might still take 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes before we get that far. into things. But for now, we now have the rough layout of Terminal 3 and of Terminal 2. There might still be some changes. I might do some changes off camera. I might rework some things here and there. But overall, I think this is a good stepping stone for the coming episodes to then at some point in the near future starting working on the interior of the airport and then starting to get at least one part opened for traffic. As always, if you have any feedback, any ideas, then you're always welcome to leave that in the comment section below. But for now, I would say this is a good point to end today's episode. So if you have enjoyed the video, then don't forget to leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.